Are we going to war with Iran? And this is one where I am surprised to say, I'm telling you, I don't know. I've always been very skeptical when there's a lot of smoke and you're wondering if things are, is it smoke or is it signal? But the United States, as of now, is moving a lot of resources to the region. They're moving a lot of resources through the Middle East. We're talking about F-35s, F-22 fighter jets, bombers, missile destroyers, aircraft carriers. This is the largest buildup in the Iranian region in a very long time. So then the question is Trump using intimidation or is he actually preparing for an invasion? I told you last week that I thought a lot of this was smoke. I did not think that this was necessarily going to lead to a war with Iran because I think that Trump prides himself on being a peace president. He even convened the peace council that he's formed over the last day or so. So you can tell that he's keenly aware that he likes his reputation as being someone who ends wars and doesn't start new ones. But the Iranian regime continues to speak completely irrationally. They want to enrich uranium up to something like 60%, even though we mostly decimated their nuclear abilities to generate nuclear power and weapons. They're going to be undeterred. They have a pre-sophisticated society. They've got pre-sophisticated science. And what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to use everything in their power to try to ramp up again as quickly as they can, and they're incredibly vulnerable now. Their missile defenses are completely shot, so it would be very easy for us to have, I think, pretty effective attacks on them. But the question is it worth it? Before, we could have said that we were coming in on behalf of our allies in Israel, and we were helping them finish a war that Iran started against them by arming a lot of the terror proxies in the region. And then we could say that, hey, Israel's our ally, we're defending Israel here, we're going to come in, we're going to take out this totalitarian regime, which is very brutal and apparently very stupid because they keep doing tough talk with America, despite the fact that they've been the weakest that they've ever been. So that would have been an option, but that option is gone now. So now it would look like we are initiating a war itself. But that said, they are sort of sitting ducks because they keep engaging in all this tough talk and while they're at their absolute weakest militarily. So then becomes the question, what interest does it serve the United States of America? Well, of course, we don't want Iran getting a nuclear weapon because once they have a nuclear bomb, then all of a sudden things change completely. Because when you've that level of capability to do devastation around the world, then all of a sudden that's going to be just completely horrific, and it makes it much harder to negotiate with people the same way we have those complexities with North Korea, which causes a lot of problems every so often. Every few years or so, we have another North Korea news cycle. All this is related. So we don't want that to happen again. So now, is this a good time to move on Iran? I don't know. And I'll tell you the political implications are very severe because I will tell you if Trump goes in, bombs Iran, my anticipation is that he will not gain any new supporters for his cause, for the MAGA cause, for the America First cause, but he will lose some of his coalition. So is it worth it? And that's where it's only up to him to decide. And I don't know what intelligence he's got, and I don't know of whether or not this huge deployment of troops and carriers and missiles and weaponry and planes to the region is mostly designed to get Iran to act sensibly. I don't know. Hopefully that's what it is, but I don't know if Iran is capable of that. And if Trump feels compelled to move, a quick, devastating strike, it normally works out. But of course, I am concerned that it could get framed as Trump starting a new war. He loses his reputation as never starting a new war. And then parts of the MAGA coalition that is pretty isolationist, it's not where I'm at. I'm a very minimalist when it comes to American foreign policy intervention, but I'm a peace through strength guy. There's a lot of isolationists that are out there that will not tolerate any sort of deeper involvement in Iran. And when we have such a narrow margin in the House, we're heading in towards a really narrow potential victory or loss one way or the other in the midterms. It's a really tough call. It's a tough call for the president. I think he's basically batted 1,000 on these types of things in the past, but I officially do not know what the moves are. I'll tell you, I consulted with my good friend Joel Pollack, who ran Middle East coverage for us at Breitbart for many years, and he had a very interesting idea. He would hope that Trump would just leverage sanctions to try to negotiate better deals, not just in terms of national security, but in terms of democracy, freedom in Iran, and say, basically, you guys can avoid a bunch of economic sanctions if you do the following: have democratic elections, not be a totalitarian state, have freedom of speech, release any of your political prisoners. If you abide by this stuff, that you not only could avoid our physical wrath, but you could avoid a bunch of economic sanctions, and you guys could potentially grow economically. But there's a major problem here. There is no real coherent ideological opposition to the Ayatollahs. And that is a big problem. And I've done a deep dive into Iranian history recently. It's become an area of interest in my, I guess, semi-spare time. Obviously stuff I can use on the show as well. But there is just not a coherent opposition, and that's part of the problem. There's a lot of tribalism. There's a lot of various factions and regions that have different needs, and it's very hard to have a cohesive movement to depose the Ayatollahs and replace it with anything that's necessarily going to be better. And that's the risk we run coming after the Iraq War, where we went in, we did regime change, and the regime change ended up being replaced with more chaos than there was previously, and that is a big risk. Maybe there's a model like what we did in Venezuela. You just take out the one guy, you take out the leader, and then see what happens. I don't know. There's a lot of options on the table, but now I'm officially in the 50-50 camp, not in the we for sure are not going to war with Iran, which is a big development.